Welcome to New Life. How's everybody doing? It is great to have you here. If you missed last week, my name's Joseph. I'm the new pastor here. Now you're all caught up. Look at that. And just like that, you're caught up. We're going to jump right in. We talked a lot last week, and I just want to recap real quick for those of us who missed it, or if we need reminders, because we often need reminders. What we first talked about was our mission as Christians, right? Our mission as Christians is for love, joy, and peace. To walk in love, to find joy, and to sow peace. We are meant to live in love, joy, and peace. Paul, right, in 1 Corinthians 13, if you have not love, you are a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. Jesus said they will know you are my followers by your love for one another. We look at joy and the thought process of joy. Jesus said, rejoice and be glad. Rejoice in the midst of persecution and be glad. That's how much we're supposed to walk in joy, is even in the midst of persecution. And the persecution they talked about was like actual whippings and beatings and shipwrecks and stuff like that. Like even in that extreme level of persecution, still walk in joy and be glad, he said. Paul said, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. And then we look at the thought of peace. And if our mission as Christians to walk in love, joy, and peace, what about peace? Jesus says, peace I leave with you. He left us peace. He said, my peace I give to you. Remember, we talked about the fact that he said, do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. Again, we can look at the landscape of Christians and the landscape of our society and pretty much just from that verse alone be like, well, we got something wrong somewhere, right? Paul says, if at all possible, be at peace with the people you like. Be at peace with the neighbor if they agree with you politically. Be at peace with everyone. Woo! James said, and the fruit of justice is sown in wrath, peace. To them that make peace. That's a different type of justice than I was given in oftentimes in my American definition growing up. Anybody amen to that? It's just different. Wait, justice is peace and peace is justice? That was not the correlation I was given. That's okay. We have to learn. We're trying to learn the rhythms and the natural practices of Jesus. And so we're meant to sow a life of peace, to live joyful lives, to love one another so greatly that it is the characteristic that we are known by. I don't know much about that person, but what I do know is every time I'm around them, I just see them loving the other person next to them so much so I got to figure out what's going on in their world. That's to that extent. So when we look at that, if we're meant to sow a life of peace, genuinely love, right, and find joy, then there's a problem, and it's pretty obvious. That's what we talked about last week. There's an obvious problem. It's not just in religion, it's in society as well. There's an obvious problem. There's an obvious issue in our world, and we came down to the conclusion that we're in too much of a rush to genuinely love, to find joy, and to sow peace. We're in too much of a hurry to do it. We can't possibly love. We can't possibly find joy and sow peace. Why? Because we're in such a rush. We're in such a hurry. We talked about in the last 50 years, since 1970, there's been so many technological advancements. A few of them are fiber optics, GPS, email, the internet, Bluetooth, iPhone, Bitcoin, electric cars, metal 3D printing. We went through like 30 of them last week. The idea being that we've seen more and more technological advances maybe than in any other time in history, and most of them were meant to give us our lives back. They're all due to, many of the inventions are in the realm of speed or convenience, meant to give us our lives back. And instead, we've traded in love, joy, and peace, or the pursuit of love, joy, and peace through these technological advancements. And instead, it seems like we've traded those for anxiety, depression, and hurry sickness. Right? That's the conclusions we came to last week. But luckily, Jesus has an answer for us. And we read Matthew 11, 28 through 13. Matthew 11, 28 through 13. I'll read to you one more time. It says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Not wrath. Not penal justice. Not anger. Rest. Take my yoke upon you. My yoke meaning my teaching, my life practices, my rhythm of the way I walk, the way I talked. And learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. And you will find, if you do this, if you walk like this, if you talk like me, if you do it the way I designed it to be done, you will find rest for your souls. For my teaching, my yoke, my practice, the way I walk, the way I talk is easy, and my burden is light. And again, we ask the question, where are we seeing that in our society? Where are we seeing that in Christianity? The easy and light lifestyle. Where is that? Where is that? Because on many Christians we talk to, many Christians I talk to, like, it's so hard. I hate following Jesus, but to God be the glory. Now come. Do likewise and surrender your life to Jesus. It's going to kill you. That's often our pitch. That's the worst sales pitch I ever heard. And listen, if that was the way Jesus did it and God set it up, fine. Okay, we're going to do it God's way, right? But it's not. He said it. It's easy and my burden is light. So we've got something missing, and Jesus' invitation, I believe, even this morning, is for us to follow him within the rhythms of our life. In other words, observe the way he did life and do likewise. Observe the way he did life and do likewise. And so that's what we're walking into. We're looking at this book. It's called Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. John Mark Comer got it from a bunch of other guys that went before him. But ultimately, he looked into the scripture. He looked into the scripture and he found 4 practices that Jesus walked in. And that's our 4 S's. The 4 S's are the 4 secrets. They're not actually secrets within Jesus' life, but within our society and within religion. Oftentimes we've covered them up, or even at times we've been opposed to them. And so we're going to do the work over the next couple of weeks to uncover the secrets, the practices that Jesus walked in. And we're going to challenge each other to begin to walk in them. Our first S, we made it. We made it to the first S. It's a 4-letter S. No, I'm just kidding. Our first S, we made it. We didn't make it last week, first service. For those of you who missed it, like, what? I don't get it. It's okay. Our first S is silence and solitude. It's a double whammy. You're like, wait, I thought it was 1 S. It's 2, but it's really solitude, but you can't get solitude without silence. Woo! So you got 2 for 1 today. Silence and solitude, that's our first S. And I love it right off the bat, right? Because I already am like, the first words you say it, like, it sounds terrible. Nobody else with me. It sounds terrible, like silence and solitude. Somebody's like, I thought you said it's going to be easy and light. No, it's hard initially, but if we practiced it, if we start to practice it, if we start to develop the muscle, it will in turn give us, our life will become easy and light. But the practice is diligence. The practice is made in discipline. It's difficult to practice it. And I think it's funny because it is difficult. It's hard. It's challenging. When I think silence and solitude, I'm like a natural extrovert. When I was younger, like I scored extrovert off the charts. I don't know, ENFJ, anybody did the Myers-Briggs test? Yeah, I was like crazy extrovert. Silence and solitude, if my parents were like, go sit in your room alone for a while, it's like, you just want to kill me. You literally just want to murder me right now. This is the end. I wasn't dramatic at all. But my daughter, she's 6, right? So she's starting to grow up in eating. She's just started in the last couple months. She learned the word boring. Any other parents out here, you know what I mean? Like the word boring. So I'm trying to help coach her. I'm like, boring is good. So I'm trying to teach her about how boring is good, and it can create, actually out of boredom comes creativity and all the positives of being bored. But you know how it is, like, she's like, Dad, I'm bored. And I'm like, what does Daddy say about being bored? This is so good, you know? I'm getting ethereal now. What does Dad say about being bored? And her response, like, it's good. And I'm like, that's how we respond so often to silence and solitude. Why? Because, like, silence and boredom are lost arts within our society. They're lost arts. We've lost the art of sitting in silence or being bored. We don't know what it even feels like anymore. We feel like a cat in water, right? Like, ah! Some of you literally have that reaction when I said the word silence. You're like, freaking out, right? We can't even have people over to our homes anymore without like every minute detail. Right? Anybody else? No, just me? Like, no, we got to detail it out. Like, we got a new person coming over the house. Okay, what are we going to do? From 6:15 to 6:45, we're going to watch a movie. We're going to watch a show. What are the shows? Do they like the show? Did we already text and find out? Yeah, we'll just have The Office. It'll be in the background. It's good. Everybody loves The Office. Okay, great. 6:15 to 6:45. At 6:45, I will deliver appetizers. We'll pause Office, and we'll start the music from Alexa. Okay, great. And from 6:45 to 7:30, we'll eat appetizers, but Alexa will be playing, right? Yeah, Alexa will be playing. Okay, good. And then at 7:30, what's going to happen? Because we're going to walk out to the fire pit. We got to pause Alexa because we lose the Wi-Fi by the time we get out to the fire pit. What are we going to do? I got the Bluetooth speaker. Okay, good. Thank God. Oh, my God. I don't know what I would do if I had to sit in silence with a stranger. Anybody? No? Okay. Just us. Okay. That's okay. We've lost it. But before we had all the screens, we were forced to. I got to get rid of this book. It's just become a weird prop all of a sudden. Before we had all the screens, we were forced into it. Does anybody remember, like, before the iPhone, before the flip phone? I got my first flip phone at 16. I was super awesome. It was the Verizon Flip. But before that, I would go to my friend's house, Josh St. Croix, right? I'd drive up it was a mile up the road. I could take my bike. We get there. It was like, I don't know, between 8 and 15 years old before we got our first phone. So it was like we would just sit there in his house. And what would you do? Do you remember that time? I remember that time. We would lay on the couch. What would we do? What do you want to do? Oh, no. What do you want to do? Oh, no. What do you want to do? Oh, no. You want to watch a movie? That's the same 10 VHS tapes, man. We already watched them 100 times each. I don't want to watch another movie I already watched 100 times. Okay, well, what do you want to do? Oh, no. What do you want to do? You want to go swim in the pool? Bro, we swam in the pool for like hours before. Man, I don't want to swim in the pool again. We just been in the pool for hours, bro. Why you whining about going to the pool? I don't know, man. Well, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. You want to go light the 8 acres on fire? Yeah, let's go do that. Okay. That's a true story I'll tell you someday, but it ain't for today. But out of that, there was creativity, there was beauty, there was friendship that was built. There were things that happened, but we don't have the capacity to do that anymore. In fact, did you know that goldfish have an attention span of 9 seconds? Why did you just tell me about goldfish attention span all of a sudden? Because humans have an attention span now. It's been decreasing for a while. We're now, goldfish are beating us out by a whole second. We're at 8 now. That thing right there is beating out your ability to think, your ability to focus, your ability to rein in. Why? Because we've lost the art of silence. We've lost the art of boredom. We've lost the art of being able to be by ourselves. In fact, there was a poll of young people, and they were asked, when nothing is occupying your attention, what's the first thing you do? 77% of young people, that's 8 out of 10. You already know the answer. 8 out of 10 young people said, the first thing I do is reach for my phone. And all of you knew the answer because you're like, I guess I'm a young person today. Congratulations, you're young in America no matter how old you are if you're reaching for your phone. 8 out of 10. We don't even know how to do it, how to sit in silence. But remember, even Jesus needed time alone in the silence. When we talk about the Creator, God himself comes down in human flesh, and he needed silence. Nobody gets an out today. Nobody gets an out. There were several times Jesus went into silence. Luke 4, 1 through 2, and 14 through 15. After Jesus was baptized, he spent 40 days praying in it's actually eremos. We often translate to wilderness, but it really just means solitary place. Anybody else, by the way, this is still a caveat. I probably don't have time for this moment to do it. Anybody else, when you used to read that, like went out into the wilderness, anybody else get Snow White vibes? Like, nobody. There's like wolves and stuff. Bad. Jesus like coming out here to spend time. No, he went out to a solitary place. And by the way, the actual piece behind this, this is all for free. I don't know if Second Service is going to get this, so enjoy this one. Here you go online. You ready? But the actual thing was, I'm going to do 40 days in the solitary place. Why? Because the enemy is going to come and he's going to tempt me, and I need to be strong enough to resist the temptation. And so him going into his silent, solitary place was actually building up strength to withstand the enemy's temptation. We got to start thinking of it differently. Some of us, especially dudes, I'm just going to call us out. We look at silent, solitary, everything you just heard, wuss. Weak. Sometimes we get into this like, I don't want to do it, so I got to think about my thoughts and feelings. Yeah, Jesus did it for strength. You want to have some real strength, some real character, you're going to have to start to learn how to sit in the silence, to go to solitary places. Mark chapter 6, verse 30. Jesus told his disciples after they got back to separate from the people who were following so they could rest. Matthew 14, 1 through 13. Jesus learned that his cousin John the Baptist was beheaded, so he goes away to be alone and to grieve. Somebody needed that today. It's okay. Give yourself permission to go alone and grieve. Luke 6, 12 through 13, Jesus spent the whole night alone, and then he goes out and picks his 12 disciples. So he's preparing for some big decisions. Sometimes I think maybe he should have taken 2 days because #Judas, you know what I mean? Like, one more day, man. You could have got all 12. Bad joke. Luke 22, hours before Jesus is arrested, we find him alone in the Garden of Gethsemane praying. And then the final one, Luke chapter 5, verses 15 through 16. Yet the news about him spread all the more, so that crowds of people came to hear him and to be healed of their sicknesses. But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. What do we hear? Jesus is often leaving the needy groups of people for a greater need. Jesus is often leaving. Think about it. He's healing their sicknesses. Who else gonna heal their sickness? They were coming to him for a reason. Nobody else was capable at the time. Nobody else had that mystic magic healing touch, right? So they're coming to him. So you got droves of people in line still waiting to be healed, and he's like, enough. If you saw a pastor do that in the church lobby, you'd be like, we are leaving the church right now. Jesus knew his limit. He accepted the limit of humanity. And he said, that was it. That's all I have. I have a greater need to go be with the Father. I have a greater need to go be with myself, just between me and the Father. I have to be refilled in order for me to continue to pour out. He would often leave the needy crowds for a greater need to go by himself, sit in silence and solitude. So let's break it down. What is silence and what is solitude? For our purposes, we're going to define silence as quieting the external noise. And again, in order to quiet the internal noise, we've got to quiet the external noise. But what's the external noise? All of it. This. Me yelling at you on a Sunday morning. Shut me up. The music. Shut it off. You're playing Donda for the 100th time. That's Kanye. Okay, wrong crowd. We're playing Taylor Swift. I don't know. We're playing country. We're playing Zach Brown Band. I can't sing that one. Wait. Which one can you sing? Burning the fit just right. Okay, we're done. Okay, we're moving on. You get the point. Turn off the music. Shut off the TV. Turn off all the stations. All the news stations. Shut down social media. If you're really brave, don't even just flip your phone to do not disturb. Turn it off and deal with the anxiety that comes with that. Get away from the noise and sit in silence. This is about finding a space and turning off the noise. Finding a space and turning off the noise. Here's what we're going to do. We're just going to practice it. You could sit in absolute silence. Or you could put a little bit of background music without words. So that's what we're going to do. We got a little background music with no words. And we're just for 60 seconds. This is just 1 minute. So work that goldfish muscle up. We're going to do this. And we're just going to enter into some silence for 60 seconds. I'm encouraging you, before we start it, I'm going to encourage you one tip. Breathe. At the beginning of the 60 seconds, take some deep breaths in and let some deep breaths out. Let's go. Sometimes we know we haven't done this in a while when a minute feels that long. But I want to encourage you, for some of us that was soothing. For some of us that might have been really challenging. And that's okay. That just means you're a little out of practice with it. But I want to encourage us to continue to sit in that. St. Augustine says, entering silence is entering into joy. When we talk about our mission as Christians being love, joy, and peace, one of the avenues to joy is actually being content, being slow, being steadfast in the midst of silence. And when we find contentment and steadfast in silence, we're able to now enter into the chaos of the world around us and still find joy. If we have any chance at it, we have to slow ourselves down. We have to take some time and sit in it. Silence is just simply doing what we just did. We just quieted the external noise. And see, then next comes solitude. And typically when we quiet the external noise, what starts to happen? The internal noise. We start to listen to the internal noise again. Solitude is just that, quieting the internal noise and entering into communion with God. And I think there are a couple things that often hold us back from solitude. Number one is we often confuse solitude and isolation. I want to make that clear. Solitude is not isolation. Solitude is engagement. Isolation is often an escape. Solitude is safety. Isolation can often be dangerous. Solitude is when you set aside time to feed and water and nourish your soul, to let it grow into health and maturity. Isolation is what you crave when you neglect the former. Solitude is not meant to be loneliness. Solitude is inner fulfillment. Loneliness is often that feeling of inner emptiness. In solitude, we are anything but alone. We are meant to feel most in connection to God in the midst of solitude. Number one, we often confuse solitude and isolation. And number two, so many of us are afraid to sit in silence and solitude because we know where our thoughts are going to take us. That inner voice starts screaming. Those inner thoughts. And here's the mistake I think so many of us make. Initially, those inner thoughts feel like those are the things that are driving me into depression. Those are the things that are making me so anxious about life. Those are the things that have a stranglehold on me, that past memory, that thing I can't get away from. Now, I get that. We all have that. But I'm telling you this, the distractions from not facing those things are the things that are giving you depression and anxiety. Jesus calls to us and says, sit in this. And he doesn't want to ignore it. See, I'm going to tell you this. It's maybe a sad reality for some of us, but there's no way around the sad and dark thoughts that come when we sit in silence. There's no way around it. I wish there was. But there's no way around it. My hope is that we would learn the process, the often painful process of going through them. And this is what I think Jesus meant when he said, come to me, you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest for your souls. But we're going to sit in it. See, unlike society, he doesn't want to distract you from it. He doesn't want to just get from one high to the next high to the next high to the next high to the next high so we can just get past it. Unlike religion, he doesn't want to shame you for it. He's not looking to condemn you or guilt you into anything or through it. He wants to free you from it. That freeing process, though, is a process. I know I've been through hours of counseling. One of the things my counselor told me one time, she said, you got a picture, it's like you've got a cave. And you got this cave and it's full of trash bags. And you've just been chucking trash bags in there. Some of us our whole life. Some of us for some of the most painful seasons of our life, we've just loaded up the cave. I can't deal with it right now. I can't deal with it right now. I'm too busy right now. I'm too busy right now. And then we board it up on the outside. And it's all boarded up. And she said, every once in a while you pull a board down, throw another bag in there and board it up. She said, this process is about first learning to take the boards down. Get them down. And then one by one, you grab that bag of trash and you open it up and you look at it and you observe it and you write about it and you talk about it and you go to God about it and you process it until it doesn't have a hold on you anymore. And then you go back and you grab the next bag and the next bag and the next bag until you're through. That's a process that society does not teach us. It's a process that religion does not teach us, but it's a process that I believe Jesus wants to walk with each and every one of you in this room. And the other side of it is freedom. You see, because right now so many of us are walking around and we've got, see the cave, the issue with it, the cave is our soul. The cave is your soul. And it's full of that trash. And so the moment one thing goes wrong, the moment one conversation doesn't go your way, the moment one person throws a comment that gets you, if you perceive it even if you perceive it to be trash, you're like, we rage, we freak out. We go nuts. We have anxiety built up. We stoop down lower. We can't handle it. We brace ourselves. Why? Because I can't handle another piece of trash. I can't handle your trash. I can't handle anybody putting trash at my feet. I got a cave full of it already. I can't do it. I can't do it. God's intention and hope is that we would go through this cave, that we would process through all this junk, all this stuff that's left stains and scars all over our soul, that we would get it as cleaned up as possible, that each moment, the next person, someone brings trash and throws it at us, that we're not like, I can't handle it. We're like, oh, no problem. I've been dealing with my trash all week too. What do we need to do to sift through it? That we would have so much love that God, Jesus wants to take that cave and he wants to refill it. Not with a bunch of trash bags, with an overabundance of love and of joy and of peace. And so that the moment somebody comes to us and throws trash in it, we go, I got enough love to cover that. I got enough joy to cover that. I got enough peace to cover that. In fact, I have enough love, joy, and peace to cover a multitude of wrongs. Why? How did you do it? Because I'm a Christ follower. And last I checked, that's what Christ has been doing for us for an eternity. He's been covering my multitude of wrongs. My multitude of wrongs. I bring him my trash, and he's got this overabundance of love, joy, and peace that he fills me with. And because I've been in the process of learning and of growing and of walking in the way he walked and the way he talked, and I've been doing these processes alone in the silence and the solitude of my Creator, I now have the ability to help cover a multitude of wrongs. That's our mission. That's our mission as Christians. This is what I'm going to encourage you to do. We're going to make it really practical. If you have any inkling, if you're like, man, I need this. And I pray most of us in the room are there. As Americans, I think we're all here. We need it. We need more of it. So it's like, okay, what do we do? The first thing I'm going to encourage us to do is make a plan. The first thing is when. See, here's the deal. If you don't make a plan ahead of time, you're probably not going to do it. That's how we are, just human beings. Okay, we're probably not going to do it. So when? My time typically is in the morning, it's in the evening, and then and where? Okay, I got my morning or evening slot. I want to do it then where? Okay, sometimes it's in my car. Sometimes it's out in the back fire pit. In Florida, it was my back lanai. That's a fenced-in patio, screened-in patio. Right? Where? When? Where? And then the last thing is what? What do you mean what? When, where, and what? What am I going to bring? And I want to give you this. This is just my tool, right? That's my phone. Curse these phones anyway. I'm preaching against them 4 weeks straight. No, I'm just kidding. Still have a phone, people. Not evil. I'm wearing PlayStation shoes. My wife was like, you're really going to preach on silence and solitude in your PlayStation shoes? I was like, yes, it's not evil. I'm not saying any of this stuff's evil. Hallelujah. She's religious. Real fast. I just want to show you this real fast. This is my process. I sit down and I have all my stuff. It's like this. Oh, I forgot my book. Oh, it's right there. I didn't forget it. This is what I bring out with me. This is my time with God. It's not a ritual, right? In the past, we learned bended knee and folded hands on the side of your bed. And that's okay, because you know what they were doing? They were just doing the same thing. They were just memorizing a spot and a position to get in touch faster in communication and relationship with Jesus. That's all it was. The only issue is if it ever became religious or dogmatic. Like, that's how it's got to be done. So mine's not religious or dogmatic. It's just this. And I start off in silence. But what did I bring? I brought a book that I've been processing with God. I brought my journal so I could write angry, mean, hurtful things about everybody that I don't like in my life. Yeah, it was a joke. I bring my Bible. I bring something to play music with. Typically try not to bring my phone, but if it is my phone, it's on Do Not Disturb. Something I can play music with if I want music. And I bring a piece of paper and a pen. At first, I just start in silence. But somebody asked me this week, they said, wait, you said you already brought a journal. Why'd you bring a piece of paper? Because I'll tell you what, real fast. The moment you start in silence, oh man, you're going to have about 100 realizations of what you're supposed to do today. And if you let him, the enemy will plan out your day for you. He's pretty good at it. Like, I got to spend time with my kids the other day because he was like distracting me from my silence. I was like, okay, hashtag time with kids. Try it again, buddy. Piece of paper, it's just help. It's practical. And then I just let it go. Wherever it goes. If I'm like, hey, God, let's play some music. We play some music. We do some worship. I'm like, oh, we read the Bible. We read the Bible. Oh, let's read this book. I'll read the book. Oh, I should journal. I'm feeling anxious and angry today. Journal it out. Talk it out. It's not like the same for everybody. I met, we were going through it this week, and somebody said they bring a blanket and light a candle. Somebody else said, I bring my guitar to that time. Great, whatever you want to bring, but figure out what, because once I get this down, it's like I know when, I know where, and I know what I'm going to bring. It's easy to click into now. It's easy to click into. It's repetition now. It's just, oh, I got this stuff. I know what I'm doing. And so I want to encourage you practically to begin to sit in the silence, to begin to find out whatever your when is, wherever your where is, and whatever your what is. Because once you made that plan, you're much more likely to do it. And this is what I'm going to encourage you in practically this week. Maybe for some of us, that 1 minute was such a struggle. That's okay. Just do a minute a day then. But what I'm going to try to encourage you to do, because I think most of us are so out of practice with it, I'm going to encourage you to take 5. Well, that was a cheesy moment during a Silence and Solitude message. Yeah, but every time now that you're going through Target or going through Walmart checkout and you see take 5, you're going to be like, dang it, silence. Ugh. It's a reminder. Take 5. Start with 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day. Just find 5 minutes. It could be on your car ride into work. It could be at night once you got everybody to bed, the kids are to bed, or whatever you got is kind of done for the day, and it's 8 p.m., 9 p.m., it's starting to get dark, and that's your moment. 9 p.m., 5 minutes, done. You could learn, you could use resources. There's resources out there. You could grab books like this, or there's a 1-minute pause app. It's from John Eldridge. He does a 1-minute pause. You could download this. I have this right now. You could start at 1 minute. You could go to 3 minutes. You could go 5 minutes. He plays a little music in the background. He also talks, but it's kind of weird for me for some West Coast 60-year-old dude to be whispering in my ear during my quiet time, so I can turn that off. But if you want a 60-year-old dude in the West Coast whispering in your ear during your quiet time, do you, boo? Like, enjoy it. Love that moment. But do something. Practice silence. Practice some solitude. Sit in communication with your Creator. Silence and solitude is simply that. Paying attention to and finding connection with your Creator, with God. God, I pray for this group of people. God, I love that this moment, it's not a hype moment. It's not even a super uber emotional moment. But God, that the decision right now of will we actually follow you is on the table. Will I actually follow you into the alone time, into the silence, into solitude with you? Will I actually follow you? God, I pray that so many of us in this room would answer yes, not in our words in this moment, but with our actions throughout this week. That we would find when, where, and what we're going to bring to have a relationship with you. And that we would do it with expectation in our hearts and our souls to be restored to you. And I pray for that in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Thank you for coming. New Life, we do have prayer underneath the screens. If you're interested in prayer today after service, you could just come underneath one of these screens. Someone will be there to pray for you. And online, we love you. Thank you for joining with us. And if you'd like prayer, just put in the chat, I'd like some prayer, and one of our hosts will be there to pray with you. We love you. We'll see you next week for our second S of the 4 S's. Have a good week.